Yeah, well, here in Greenwich, we're about to see some of the pictures that have been coming in, and perhaps I could ask you, Alec, to start commenting on what you think they're telling us. Can you see enough at all?
Well, it's difficult to really appreciate what one sees in a picture of this nature. It's in false colour. The brightest bit is the red bit, and that looks quite small, but I can't tell you exactly how big it is. That has to be really processed properly. But the pictures look of very high quality indeed.
Do you think that might be because of this business about they're having gone through perhaps the sort of last major shell of dust and got themselves into, as it were, a clearer zone?
Well, they certainly look a lot clearer than they did before, and a lot more compact there in the middle, and if anything, you'd expect it to be larger being closer. So I guess that is what's happening, that the dust is clearing, so to speak, and we're seeing further into the nucleus than before. Maybe we are seeing the actual nucleus, but it's hard to say at the moment.
Yeah, the point is, of course, these pictures are pictures that have come in some minutes ago. They're not, in fact, as we can see, we're 21,000 kilometres to the point of closest encounter. In fact, these pictures may have come from how far back? How long do you think it would take them to get these pictures processed to that stage and on this screen?
Well, the light travel time is about 8 minutes, and it'll take a few more minutes perhaps to come out on the screen like that.
To that, so those pictures you reckon could be anything about 15 minutes back?
Yes.
The quality of those pictures, Jim, does that mean that you stand a better chance of getting the kind of analysis you need than there would have been if the dust had been higher than was expected? Sorry, yes, if there's been a lot of dust?
It means that Giotto has a much better chance of getting right through, yes, than we would have said perhaps an hour ago.
What about this business of the Russians saying, Jack, that they thought that there might have been a very dense cloud of dust just above the surface of the nucleus? Did I not hear that claim?
You did indeed, yes. That's their interpretation. They produced slightly different interpretations from the two Vega spacecraft, which went through a few days after each other, but about the same distance away. But the interpretation they put forward after the second one was that there was a cloud, an egg-shaped nucleus, about 6 kilometers across, so a bit less than 5 miles. But what they were seeing, they thought, was a dust cloud around a real solid nucleus, which was perhaps 2/3 to a half that size. Yeah. Now, if that's the case, we really are in serious problems, because one of the great things we expected to get out of this was a solid nucleus.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, because these are live pictures coming down from Giotto now. Alec?
Well, it's progressing, that's as far as one can really judge it from those pictures. They look like they've got more structure than they had before.
What does that mean, they have more structure?
Well, that means we're seeing more detail. We're getting closer, and we'd expect to see more detail, but I think we can see rather gross structure. And of course, the nucleus would not be uniformly white ice, a uniformly white ice ball or something like that. It would be very murky and dust and grey in places and so on. That's what looks like we're seeing. If we're seeing the nucleus, I'm not suggesting we are.
No. Can I ask you, the general blob, presumably the blob to the top left there is a dust or some artificially created thing, but the general blob that we're looking at, the orange-coloured blob with the core, approximately how big across would that be if you were, say, seeing pictures that came in that were taken 8 minutes ago and therefore, say, about 50,000 kilometres out? Do you want to make a guess?
I can't make a guess, I'm afraid. And it's difficult anyway, because those are contours we're seeing, and we can't really make out which contours we see.
Sorry, maybe I should ask the question more clearly. Are we actually seeing well inside the head of the comet that we would normally see if we looked up on a clear night and saw it? I mean, we're looking at it well inside that, are we?
Yes, we're certainly looking well inside it. But just how far inside, it's very difficult to say from those pictures.
Yes, right. Let me go back to Darmstadt with Patrick. Patrick.
Well, we're delighted that Alan Johnson will be able to join us again. Well, Alan, this is the great moment. What do you make of it?
Well, it's been very exciting. We've got some very interesting data. We've just seen the ions disappear from the view of our instrument, and so that means we're inside the contact surface very close to the comet. And we're now just seeing the final pictures from the nucleus.
And we really are seeing the nucleus itself, you think?
I don't know. We'll have to wait until we see the pictures in more detail before we can tell exactly what part of it is the nucleus.
It seemed to be irregular in shape, and that could, I suppose, tie in with the results obtained earlier on by the Vegas.
Yes, I'd expect it to be irregular in shape. Certainly, it's always been thought of as probably irregular, and that's the picture that's coming through now.
Does that give you any clue as to why one side of the comet is so active and the other apparently passive?
Not yet, I think. If it's irregular, it certainly tells us it's not a uniform body, but to tell exactly why the reasons are that one side is active and the other side is quiet is beyond us at the moment, I think.
Well, when we came on the air, we said that we hoped that just after midnight we would be able to see the actual nucleus of the comet. All in all, do you think we've done that?
I don't know. We'll have to wait and see.
Gentlemen, can I interrupt because...
To tell.
Hello, this is James in London.
Getting some very interesting
Can I interrupt because I hear that we're getting live pictures in from the dust detecting equipment from the experiment, looking at what's happening to the shields at the moment, and you can see there the impact actually being generated in real time.
Is that going to be a problem, do you think?
Waiting to see.
This is... we're not sure what that picture is there. That obviously it looks like something coming down from the camera, but why it's coming in that particular format. I don't know. Alec Boxenberg, do you want to guess about that?
I think there's some interference there that is making it very confusing for us.
Do you think it's skewed off at all, or...?
No, definitely not skewed.
Jim Kern?
I wouldn't like to say at this stage.
You don't know? As you can see, yes, the time is building, so we've passed closest to the point of closest encounter. The spacecraft evidently, well, you can see how fast it's moving. It went in through 540, and evidently it seems to have survived. Since the pictures, since our timing is presumably timing based on how long it takes for the pictures to get here, the pictures are here, therefore it must have survived. Now, Jack, they were talking earlier about the fact that it has to go out the other side.
Yep.
Sorry, let me go to Lee Sproat, our youngest amateur astronomer over there, who's shaking his head when I say we think it must have survived. Why are you shaking your head, Lee?
I don't think it will survive because as you start to go into the comet's nucleus each time, the speed of the particles is increasing by about 100-fold. And the images that were coming off the television there were very distorted. So I think that something's either happened to the probe itself or something's happened to the camera.
Yes. Well, let's go back and check on what they think in Darmstadt about that. Patrick?
Yes? Well, I don't know. What do you think about that one, Alan?
Well, I'm still waiting to see whether it survived or not. I think that's my biggest concern at the moment because we're hoping to collect data on the way out.
It'll be absolutely ironical, won't it, if it's destroyed at the very last moment.
Yes, but it was part of the plan that it might be destroyed at the last minute, and so we're not disappointed if it is.
Well, I think everyone is going to be extremely disappointed. Well, as we're also being joined now by Dr. Leonard Culhane, who's the director of the Mullard Space Science Laboratory. Leonard, what do you think about this?
Well, a superb evening for Europe and of course, for Mullard Space Science. And I think half the job is done if we've seen the action on the way in, and Alan's instrument has functioned superbly, and we have a lot of data in the can. And
what about the survival of
pleased.
Giotto? Are you still confident now?
Well, right now, who can tell? It doesn't look so likely, but we at least have acquired a lot of data as we approach the nucleus, so we're very pleased with the evening's work.
I wonder how long it'll be before we know, in fact, whether Giotto has survived or not, because after all, closest approaches, well, it was past some time ago, and it took place at 11 minutes past midnight our time, so it's quite definitely past now, and the signal should have come back, and apparently don't seem to be getting any at the moment.
We seem to have lost them just at the moment.
We seem to have lost them at the moment. That could be one of several things. It could be, could it not, that the Giotto has been struck by some kind of particle that has very slightly jolted the high-gain antenna out of its path. And if it was tilted by as much as 1 degree, then we actually lose the signal.
Exactly so. And the time to recover from this is like 1 hour, I believe. Is that correct, Alan?
Yes, something like an hour or more.
So if we don't get any more signals from Giotto for the next hour or so, it's still too early to say it's definitely been destroyed.
Indeed.
That's right,
Indeed.
yes.
If you had to bet on it, what would you say is the more likely? That it has in fact been destroyed or put permanently out of action by a sizable impact, or that it has been jolted out of a line, shall we say?
Jolted out of line is the more likely, definitely.
I think that's right. I certainly hope that's right.
Is there any possible way of finding out at the present moment, or do we have to simply wait and see whether the signal is reacquired?
Well, if they know if they watch what happened in the control center, they will have some idea of whether it started to tilt first before they lost the signal, or whether it disappeared suddenly. If it disappeared suddenly, then it's probably a destructive impact. But if it starts to tilt off first, then it could be just the tilting of the thing.
Well, I can see there's some pictures actually from the control room for the people there, and they seem to get to be rather puzzled.
Yes, well, they've got a lot of procedures to go through to check out exactly what's happening, and they have a procedure worked out by which they're going to do this.
If by any chance we don't get any more signals from Giotto, you would still say that your particular experiment has been a success.
Yes.
Absolutely, indeed.
And how long will it
Superbly
take you to evaluate the data that you've got?
Wow.
I would think about 2 years, at least.
There's a new picture coming in, I think. A new picture coming up, so this.
Action again.
Now, I wonder whether that's an actual picture in real time or whether it was one transmitted a few minutes ago. I think it's one transmitted a little earlier. It looks very similar to that picture that we saw earlier on. I don't think that's coming down live from Giotto, do you?
No, it doesn't look like it. It looks like it's been more processed.
Well, we can see there that curious shape of the nucleus again. Not exactly a double nucleus, and the Vega 2 pictures did strongly indicate that there was a real double aspect there, and you don't see that on that particular picture.
That might be due to the particular angle from which you're looking at it. If we're looking at it end on, that double aspect might disappear.
I wonder.
Patrick, while you've been talking there, we've been listening directly to the people in flight dynamics now, and of course in the dust experiment, and I gather that they have recently gone through, in the last few minutes, several hundreds of impacts per second, and it might well be that that's what we saw changing the quality of the picture, altering the quality of the picture in some way as we came through, and that perhaps having gone through that, it's now steadied and cleared up again. If that were indeed a live picture that we caught, which looked so clear just now, what's your feeling about that over there?
Well, we don't think it was a live picture, but it's very difficult to tell. What do you think, Leonard?
It certainly doesn't seem live to me at the moment, and I suppose the worst may have happened. But, who knows? Alan, what do you think?
Well, I'm trying to look up there on the monitor screen to see if that tells us anything about it. We can see some signals coming through from the control center at the moment, and it seems to indicate the TM quality is good. That may mean that they've got the link back, but maybe it's too soon to tell that.
If by any chance there has been an impact which has just jolted the high-gain antenna to one side, so the signal is now missing us, what is the very minimum time that it would take for us to reacquire the signal?
I don't know. I think it's probably something like several hundred seconds. That would be perhaps as much as 15 minutes. Because it has to take time for the wobble to be damped out.
Could I interrupt, gentlemen? Could I interrupt, gentlemen, to ask you what it is we're watching now? In that case,
At the present moment?
yes, this particular picture.
Well, it certainly is a detailed picture. It's an enhanced picture, but it is an enhanced picture of the nucleus area, obviously, and that's really what makes me feel that it was probably transmitted a few minutes ago. I don't think that's coming down live because it's too obviously enhanced.
Yes.
And I would say that that was probably taken almost at the point of closest approach when we know that Giotto was still functioning. Would you agree on that, Leonard?
Yes, that seems reasonable view, Patrick.
And once again, we can see the curious irregular shape there, and we have got what looks to be a well-defined central portion, and I just wonder what they can make of that one. Of course, we've simply got to wait and see what happens now, because if we don't get any more signals from Giotto, then one very sad result is that we lose all the data we would have got from the outward journey, and we would, of course, lose also the pictures we would have got from the outward journey.
Yes. From my point of view, I think it's possible that the contrast between the outward journey and the inward journey would have provided us with a great deal of information that we don't get from just going in on one side, because of the particular asymmetries caused by the magnetic field.
Patrick, we hear from Darmstadt, while you were talking there, that they seem to have lost contact, that seem to be getting no more telemetry from the spacecraft. So it does sound as if the speculation there that you were indulging in about the spacecraft having been slightly knocked off course may have, in fact, happened, since the last report I heard a few seconds ago was that there was no telemetry coming down.
Well, we very much hope in a way that that is so, because I mean, one of two things has happened. I mean, disregarding a straightforward instrument failure on board the spacecraft, which at this juncture I think is extremely unlikely. It's some outside influence, all right, so it can really be only one of two things, or rather one of three things. It could be that an impact has put the camera out of action. It could be that an impact has put the entire spacecraft out of action or even destroyed it. Or it could be that the antenna is now misaligned. And I think everyone's going to hope devoutly that that in fact is what has happened, because if so, there's every chance that we should be able to reacquire the signal in a period ranging from something like 15 minutes, and it happened several minutes ago now, which could be any moment, I suppose, up to an hour. And if that is so, then all may not be lost. But of course, the further away Giotto is, the less information it's going to send back. And once it's been past the nucleus for an hour, then it's going to be back well outside the main region, and we really shan't get a lot more information from it. I think that's a fair statement, isn't it, Anna?
Yes, that's true, yes.
I got...
We need to... the most interesting information comes from the last 100,000 kilometres.